Hi everyone, Dr. Mike here. In this video, we're taking a look at left side heart failure. Let's jump straight into it. All right, to begin, let's orientate ourselves. I've separated the left and right hand side of the heart up here so it makes more functional sense because each side has their own circulation. So because we're focusing on the left-hand side, let's look at this. The left-hand side of the heart, which I've got as the left atrium here and the left ventricle here, it receives blood from the lungs. So here I've got an alveolus, which is a representation of the lungs, and here's the post-capillary aspect of the pulmonary circulation. So it receives oxygenated blood from the lungs, going into the left atrium, through the mitral or bicuspid valve, into the left ventricle. It contracts with all that muscle. Remember, left-hand side of the heart is 3 to 4 times thicker than the right-hand side because it has to pump blood to the entire body. So it contracts forcefully, pushes blood out through what's called the aortic semilunar valve into the aorta, and then sends this blood out through the systemic circulation to all the tissues of the body. So that is the circulation of the left-hand side of the heart. Receives blood from the lungs, sends blood to the body. So this is really important to understand heart failure. Behind the left-hand side of the heart is the pulmonary circulation. In front of the left-hand side of the heart is the systemic circulation. Because when we have heart failure, so let's define it, an inability of the heart to effectively work as a pump, its job here to effectively work as a pump is to ensure that there's no congestion behind, so it receives the blood it needs, and that the blood that enters leaves appropriately to meet the metabolic demands of the body. That's how it needs to work as a pump. If any of those things don't happen, so congestion occurs behind or inadequate outflow in front, that's heart failure. Now, let's look at left side heart failure and some of the causes so that it makes sense. Anything that can affect that is going to cause left side heart failure. So let's focus on our first one. First one that we want to focus on here is arterial hypertension. Arterial hypertension. So hypertension is high blood pressure, but it's referring to chronic, right? High blood pressure over time. So effectively, you don't just have one vessel here, obviously. You've got all of these multitude of arteries and arterioles. And if you've got a degree of occlusion or blockage, so let's say there's something that's narrowing this vessel, like an atherosclerotic plaque, for example. And this atherosclerotic plaque, it can start forming clots, and then clots can narrow the hollow lumen of the vessel, right? But what happens is if that's narrowed or the blood vessels are constricting when they shouldn't, blood tends to back up. Now, this is arterial hypertension, right? The left-hand side of the heart, it's going to receive blood normally, it's going to feel normally, and then the myocardium of the left ventricular wall will contract to eject that blood out. But look, it's facing resistance. Now, it's facing a pressure resistance. So there's pressure to overcome. Now, in order to overcome this pressure, because think, if it contracted as normal, it would hit this pressure and some blood would fall back in. So not enough blood would leave. Oh, that would be heart failure. We don't want that. So the left myocardium, the left ventricular myocardium remodels itself in response to this pressure overload. What this is actually called afterload, increased afterload. So this is really important, particularly when it comes to understanding heart failure, is that if you have increased pressure or pressure overload that you need to overcome in the heart will compensate by changing structurally. So what the heart does is it undergoes what's called concentric hypertrophy. So hypertrophy is when the heart gets, or the tissue gets larger. Here we're talking about cardiac tissue, so the myocardium, it gets larger. So we need to add some contractile subunits, sarcomeres, to get larger. So the concentric is telling you in what way it's getting larger. So again, if it's in response to having to overcome a pressure or pressure overload, it gets bigger through concentric hypertrophy, which means this. The heart will, let's say the hollow inside of the heart looks like this, right? and there's the myocardium, right? Its response is it will get bigger like this. Because what it's done is if that is a sarcomere and that's a sarcomere and that's a sarcomere, right? It will add sarcomeres in parallel, making it thicker. So what you get is a thicker heart muscle. But what that means is the hollow inside of the heart reduces. And so you go, okay, in the early stages of responding to this pressure overload, this concentric hypertrophy works in some degree, because just like going to the gym, you're experiencing a resistance. The muscle needs to get bigger and stronger to overcome that resistance, right? So you get concentric hypertrophy. But over time, it's consistently having to overcome this increased pressure, and it starts to encroach on the hollow inside of the ventricle, which means that less blood is entering. So what we get is decreased filling. Less blood is entering. But because we've also got so much muscle here, it's hard for it to relax, and it remains stiff. So you get decreased filling and increased stiffness. And these things together result in decreased output. And what we get? Left-sided heart failure. So that is due to arterial hypertension. Now, there's another cause, there's a couple more for left-side heart failure. Another cause here is what we call ischemic heart disease. Ischemic heart disease. Sometimes it's referred to as coronary artery disease. So what we're saying here is, instead of the narrowing happening here in the systemic vessels, the systemic arteries, the narrowing happens to the blood vessels that are feeding the heart muscle itself, the coronary supply. So here's a coronary artery here, and the blood will enter and diffuse across to feed this nice thick myocardium. But if it is blocked due to an atherosclerotic plaque, and then maybe a clot forms and travels through and blocks it, so let's say we've blocked a fair chunk of this, that muscle doesn't get fed and the muscle dies. You've probably heard this before. It's called a heart attack, right? A myocardial infarction. So an MI, a myocardial infarct, right? An MI. And so that means the heart muscle begins to die off. And if that heart muscle begins to die off, it can no longer contract, right? And if it doesn't contract, it can't eject enough blood. It doesn't work appropriately as a pump. It's not meeting the metabolic demands of the body, left side heart failure. But in addition, what can happen is that over time, the heart tries to remodel and compensate. Now, we spoke about a form of remodeling in response to overcoming pressure, but is there a pressure here to overcome? No, there's not, right? Because this isn't here. We don't have this arterial hypertension. All we have is the muscles dying off. So what do we do? How can we overcome this? Think about it. If that's dying off and it can't contract properly, right? The filling is fine, the pressure here is fine, but because it can't contract hard enough, it doesn't eject enough. So the filling is normal, but the ejection is low. So you get a volume overload issue. Remember here, it was a pressure overload issue. Now you've got a volume overload issue. And the heart remodels in a different way in response to volume overload. So in response to volume overload, we get eccentric hypertrophy. Eccentric hypertrophy. So remember I said here we're adding sarcomeres in series. In parallel. I've given it away. We add sarcomeres, however you spell parallel. I can tell you all about biology, I can't spell. We're adding it in series in this instance. So again, the heart starts like this, the left ventricle starts like this as a normal size, but then it goes like this. It gets bigger because it's hypertrophy, but you get a dilated hypertrophy, what we call a dilated cardiomyopathy. Because what we've done is it's gotten bigger, but it's added sarcomeres. So there's the sarcomeres that existed. We've added them in series next to them to make it bigger, but not thicker, right? So you get this dilated effect. So this is what can happen over time in response to volume. Very important. And so that, what ends up happening is it just keeps filling with blood and it can't contract adequately to meet the requirements for output. All right, so that's the second. I didn't even finish writing ischemic. That's how bad I am at spelling. All right, so another one. We've got arterial hypertension, we've got ischemic heart disease, and we need to talk about the next one, which is valvular disease. All right. So what were the valves I spoke about on the left-hand side of the heart, right? We've got this valve here, which is called the mitral valve, also known as the bicuspid valve, and this valve here, which is called the aortic valve, sometimes called the aortic semilunar valve. All right, here's what can happen in this instance. Let's start with the aortic valve. If you have an aortic valve stenosis, or a stenotic, so stenosis means stiffening, hardening. Stiffened aortic valve, it's not going to open and close properly, right? So it stays stiffly shut. So it's hard for the blood to get ejected. Now think about that. If it's hard for the blood to get ejected, what was a scenario we spoke about where that happened? Arterial hypertension, remember? In arterial hypertension, it was trying to overcome the systemic blood pressure that was going back, but it's no different really to having to overcome a stiffened valve. So the same thing happens as here, is that because of you're trying to overcome that, it's a pressure overload issue, and the heart remodels to get thicker. So it gets thicker, but again, this thickness gets so thick that it narrows the hollow loop, the inside of the ventricle, and it can't maintain itself over time. And so you can then get left side heart failure. So that happens as well in the aortic valve stenosis, very similar to what's happening here. You can have not a mitral valve stenosis, but what's called mitral regurgitation. So that means it's sort of the opposite of the stiffness. It's a bit floppy, right? So if it's a floppy valve, it's not going to close properly. It might sort of flat back. And that means when this ventricle contracts, not all the blood gets ejected. Some jumps back up into the left atrium, which then means, think about this, which then means when it relaxes, that blood falls back down and overfills the heart because you got the normal blood entering, not the normal blood leaving. Some goes up here, so it's adding to the next filling event. What's that? It's a volume overload issue. So what happens in mitral valve regurgitation is you get an eccentric hypertrophy and a dilation of that ventricle. See, it's all making sense now, I hope. There's another set of causes here, and this is what we call dilated cardiomyopathies. Dilated cardiomyopathy. So cardio heart myopathies are muscle pathologies, muscle changes, and it's dilated. So it's this that's happening. But it's due to non-overload issues or non-overload causes. What do I mean by that? Well, these are the overload causes, right? So the fourth set of causes, the dilated cardiomyopathies, that happens, but it's not in response to increased pressures that it needs to overcome, and it's not in response to increased volume effects that it needs to overcome. It's due to other strange things that are happening in the body, and they all have their own specific mechanisms. So what can cause this? Well, it can be alcohol abuse, it can be cocaine, it can be some chemotherapies, can do it. Genetics, right? So it can be inherited. Diabetes mellitus, obesity, right? So all age. So all of these things in their own way can actually result in this dilated cardiomyopathy, but it's not in response to overcoming pressure changes or increased volume. All right, so these are the major causes for left side heart failure. Let's talk a bit about the symptoms. All right, so how does it present? Should be pretty easy because we know what's happening backwards and forwards. And what you can have is backwards, the symptoms due to backwards failure, so due to congestion, and symptoms due to forward failure, so reduced cardiac output. I think that's probably worth writing down. What do you think? So let's say you can have backward failure, and that's due to congestion. And you can have forward failure, and that's due to reduced cardiac output, so reduced amount of blood leaving the heart. So let's think about this. First, let's start with backwards failure. If you've got blood not ejecting and it backs up into the pulmonary circulation here, think about that. This is coming from the lungs. This blood backs up into the pulmonary, and you get pulmonary congestion, right? So what you can get for backwards failure, right, is pulmonary congestion, which means the blood is just backing up into the pulmonary circulation, but then it gets into the capillary bed and fluid will leak out into the alveoli, right? And that fluid accumulation is pulmonary edema. Now, if you've got pulmonary edema, what do you think that means? Can you exchange gases? Well, no, because there's a thickened respiratory membrane here. So it's harder for oxygen and carbon dioxide to get transported, mainly the oxygen, because carbon dioxide diffuses relatively well in fluid. Better without it, but relatively well. So what are you going to get as your symptoms here? It's going to be dyspnea. Right, so that's a shortness of breath or an alteration in breathing. And orthopnea. So this means when you lay down, you get this shortness of breath, and that's because of the way that the fluid sits in the lungs, reducing its ability for gas transport to occur. So that's the backwards failure effects of left side heart failure. What are the forward failure effects? So let's have a look at the forward failure effects. Well, because you've got a reduction in blood flow going forward, right? You've got a reduction in cardiac output. You end up getting less oxygen and nutrients to the tissues, including muscle. So what you end up getting is what? Fatigue, right? Exhaustion, weakness. So fatigue, weakness. And it might be exercise or even non-exercise induced, depending on the degree, right? Exercise or non-exercise induced. Again, can't spell induced. So that is a set of symptoms that can happen due to the forward failures. So left side heart failure, the respiratory issues, pulmonary congestion, pulmonary edema, shortness of breath, orthopnea. When it comes to the reduced ability to give oxygen and nutrients to the body, fatigue and weakness, because you're not getting the oxygen and nutrients you need, particularly to the muscle. So you might exercise and be even more exhausted and weak, fatigued, and so forth. So look, this is left side heart failure. I'm Dr. Mike, and I hope that helps. Hi everyone, Dr. Mike here. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe. We've got hundreds of others just like this. If you want to contact us, please do so on social media. We are on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Dr. Mike Todorovic, at DrMikeTodorovic. Speak to you soon.